You ready? Let's give a big Kansas City welcome to Maxine Bédat. Get up! Nice.
I'm the co-founder of Zady. We are a digital-first shopping and lifestyle destination for the conscious consumer. In startup land, there's always a this for that, like, I don't know, the Warby Parker for mattresses, the Airbnb for rabbits. One of those is actually a real company. For us, we are called the Whole Foods of fashion. So in addition to being the co-founder of Zady, I am also a very proud Midwesterner. I'm originally from Minnesota, and I really do believe that the values of the Midwest that we are known for, hard work, integrity, and caring about other people are really the values of entrepreneurs generally. And so it's really exciting that events like Big Kansas is taking place. So I wanted to start off first by telling you why we launched Zady, what Zady is, and how we're going about building a brand that's focused on storytelling, and then leave you with a few of the things that I wish someone had told me in getting started. Okay, but before all that, I have two questions. The first is, raise your hand right now, without looking, if you know where your clothing is made, what country or countries. Raise them really, really high. Okay, cool. There are like 5 of you. Raise your hand right now without looking if you know what material your clothing that you're wearing right now is made out of. Oh, good. There's like 15 of you. So this, for me, these two questions is what began the exploration and the research for what ended up changing my entire career away from law and into launching the company Zady. So for most of you, like most of you in the audience, I came of age in the era of fast fashion. And I remember very clearly visiting New York in high school when H&M first opened and excitedly standing in line as the doors opened. It was a very exciting moment for me. I really couldn't get over this idea that you could buy an entire outfit for the price of a McDonald's Happy Meal. And it was this rather addictive process that after a decade or so of living this sort of fast fashion lifestyle, I found myself living in New York with a very tiny, tiny apartment with a very tiny closet that was totally overflowing with clothing. And despite it being totally overflowing with clothing, I always felt like I had nothing to wear. And that was because everything I had become addicted to buying really couldn't survive more than 3 cycles in the wash. And what I found out later from doing research is it doesn't survive 3 washes because actually the fast fashion chains have designed and developed a product that is made not to last, so that suckers like myself would have to go in and go shopping once more. And so I got in this cycle of buying a lot of clothing, hauling it to charity stores, buying a lot of clothing, hauling it to charity stores. And in New York, when you don't have a car, that becomes really very difficult. And as it turns out, while I thought, okay, you know, I don't need this pink plaid skirt that I bought at H&M, maybe there's somebody in Africa who's going to enjoy the skirt. And as I did research, I found out actually that that is very likely not the case, because what actually happens is that most of the clothing that we're giving to charity actually ends up in landfills. And because we are buying fast fashion, most of that material is synthetic material. And so, whereas natural fibers like cotton or linen take 6 months to decompose in a landfill, synthetic fibers take 40 years. A huge, huge difference. And so I was learning about this process, and then I was also learning that that hot pink skirt actually that was very trendy, the dyeing processes, because we've outsourced who's doing our production, mostly in Asia, you can actually tell, and they have very shocking images of this, that the colors that are on trend for the next season are the same colors that are the rivers in China. So this cycle of buying and hauling and buying again became really taxing on me. And I kept going back to, okay, I thought this t-shirt was really cheap, but what is its value? And so I wanted in all of this to just find what actually was quality. And I think it's because as this generation growing up with fast fashion, never owning a sewing machine, we actually don't know, we're not connected to our things anymore. And so I wanted a resource that I could go to that could tell me who was making my clothing, what impact it was having on the environment, and I wanted it to be fast and easy and beautiful because I am the Amazon generation and I want it to be just as quick and just as beautiful as the highest end brands. And I was seeing at the same time that my co-founder and I was discussing all of this, we also see how in the food industry we've made enormous changes, and it's not just the food industry, really all other sectors have advanced enormously in how they're thinking about production and bringing transparency to production. But we haven't yet done it with clothing, or we hadn't yet done it with clothing. And I saw also that in New York, while we no longer have lines for H&M, try finding Chipotle over lunchtime, you will see a line out the door, and I'm often standing in it. And that's because the consumer is changing. So they're not interested in a McDonald's meal anymore with the mystery meat. They want to know where their food is coming from. They want to know that it's hormone-free and that they can feel good about it. And so we were seeing, whether it's Chipotle or Whole Foods, this change in the consumer away from mystery and to wanting to feel this connection. And so it was this both need in ourselves from growing up with fast fashion and then seeing this massive consumer shift that we were very much a part of that led us to create Zady. And it was nice to know that at that time, research was also being done on the millennial generation, and we weren't alone. So this was from a nationwide study from the Boston Consulting Group, and they found that the millennial generation not only is representing the US consumer market of the future, it's also transforming consumer marketing itself. So US consumers aged 18 to 34 engage with brands far more extensively than the older generations, and this is obviously very, they expect their values to be reflected in the brands that they purchase. And of course, social media and mobile devices are amplifying this as the millennial generation can communicate both with each other and with the brands. So also just as a show of hands, how many of you fit into the millennial category? Oh, awesome, that's like a nice big chunk. So now that you know kind of why we got into it, I can tell you what Zady is. So we're a digital-first, multi-brand retailer. We carry women's and men's clothing and accessories, and it's all focused on sustainable sourcing. Our mission is to provide the highest quality products available and connect our community to the makers who produce them, to provide engaging content that speaks to the conscious consumer, and to provide a beautiful alternative to disposable fashion, and to be responsive to this new consumer that we are. So in order to succeed in our mission, we focus on storytelling, our values, creating a transparent supply chain, and communicating with and not at our customers. And I share all of this because I think while applicable to Zady, it's also applicable to any brand building in this digital age. So storytelling is really infused into every single thing that we do on Zady. This is just a screen grab of the denim that we carry. It's from a brand called Imogene and Willie. And you can see on the top there that it looks like a regular e-commerce site. But as you scroll down, we'll tell you the story of Imogene and Willie, and we'll introduce you to Carrie and Matt, who are the founders. They're based in Nashville, Tennessee. And we will tell you how they decided to build a brand not to create the latest trend in denim, but to create the best fitting jeans ever. We'll also tell you about how their denim comes from Cone Denim Mill in North Carolina, and we'll introduce you to the history of denim and how important a role denim's played in the California Gold Rush. We have this type of story for every single product that we carry, and we do it not because we think we particularly like writing. We do it because storytelling is central to what we're doing, and we're building an emotional connection with our customer through these stories. Storytelling also is not just on our website, it's what we do in our brick and mortar experience as well. So last year we had a holiday pop-up shop at LaGuardia Airport. I think it was the first pop-up of a startup in an airport ever. It was a very exciting time for us. And we didn't have regular salespeople behind a counter. We trained all of our salespeople to know the story behind each and every product that we carried. And it totally transformed the space so that as you walked in, you had to kind of follow through the store on your own. You were guided, and it really became an experience. And because we transferred this sort of transactional space into an experience space, we had the third highest sales per square foot of any retailer across the country. So storytelling is obviously very important. So the second key ingredient for us in building this authentic brand is our values. And these are the criteria we use to judge every product. So for our business, you can see there they are locally sourced, handmade, high quality raw materials, environmentally conscious, made in the USA, and we have another logo for our nonprofit partner, the Bootstrap Project, which is working with artisans throughout the developing world. By listing all of our products against these criteria, we're not only just educating our community, we're building trust with them. That the things, these are the things that we care about. And we not only have this on our website, we put it on our packaging. And what we found is that people love to take pictures of our packaging. They love to tell the world that they are a part of this broader movement. And a lot of that is by being very clear about what our values are and that we continue to replicate and we continue to remind people what they are. The next sort of core criteria for us is supply chain transparency. And we see this as really being deeply integrated with authenticity. So for every product that we have a map just like that. We tell not only where the company is located, but where the raw materials come from and where the manufacturing takes place. And while we have this map for every single product, we don't expect every customer that comes on our site to go and visit this map. But it's really, really critical that it's there because that's the trust that people are building with us. It's the same way that Whole Foods has that kind of trust that when you're going into their store, it's going to be something that you can feel very good about purchasing. By having that level of transparency for every one of our products, and that transparency is actually a contractual relationship with the brands that we carry, we're able to build loyalty with our customers. And we're also not afraid to be very bold about what we stand for. So this past spring, we used an opportunity that we had for a spread in the Wall Street Journal to create this. I don't know if you can read it, so I will read it for you. It says, "Fast fashion is fast food. Empty calories that make us feel full. Factories full of mistreated workers. Rivers full of toxic chemicals. Closets full of disposable wares. Landfills full of yesterday's garment. Process matters, quality matters, honesty matters." And then we spelled it out. You're damn right, it's a call to action. So I have to be totally honest, the night before this was printed, I did not sleep. I was a little nervous about how the audience, such a big audience as the Wall Street Journal, would receive such a message. And I remember I ran down to my closest Starbucks and I bought every single Wall Street Journal that they had. And I saw, that I was getting pinged on my phone. And I was a little nervous to kind of see what they had to say. And what I found actually was just an outpouring of support. Zady that day became a trending topic on Twitter, and there wasn't a single negative comment. And I think that says a lot about where we are as consumers these days. It was clearly hitting a cultural nerve. We want to know where our things come from. And what it was also a lesson for us in the business is that if you have something that you genuinely believe in, you should be bold about it, and people are going to respond to that very positively. And then the last kind of core tenet for Zady is participatory commerce. And this goes back into who we are as a generation. This is, again, coming from that same Boston Consulting Group study. Millennials expect this two-way mutual relationship with companies and their brands. And this is so fundamentally different. I was just at a fashion retail congress in Paris, and it was so fascinating to see how different of an approach this is to where we were even 10 years ago, to the brands that we grew up with, the brands that I knew in the Great Mall of America. It's just a completely different world. So what we've done is we not only are on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, obviously, every single day. We're not just showing the behind the scenes that's important. What we're doing is we're making it this two-way communication. So this is just one example. We had a picture that we got. People love to take photos of our packaging. In this case, they took a photo of a Zady envelope that's part of the packaging and a dog. People love dogs. They love animals. And so we used this opportunity to ask our audience, what else did they want to see? And so we re-Instagrammed that picture and we said, what are you wanting to see on Zady that we don't already carry? And the very strong response was that they wanted to see animal products. So we went out and we found a locally sourced sustainable brand out in Brooklyn. And we then sent out an email to our email list that we listened to what they had to say, and we have this great product. And because the customer was already a part of that process, because they were the one that led it, we sold out of that product within a day, and we really couldn't keep the product in. It was just so popular. And so for us, that's just a very small example of what we're trying to do on a broader scale. And this year, this holiday season, we'll be launching our own product line made entirely from the farm to the dye house to the processing to the knitting, all in the United States. We're incredibly excited about it, and we'll continue to use this idea of participatory commerce. So it's not going to be a big, splashy ad campaign with very expensive, fancy-looking models. It's really going to be responsive to what are you as consumers wanting to have? What is the fit that you want to have? What is the colors that look best on you and that you gravitate towards? And it's seeing fashion kind of in the same way that tech is. It's about iteration. It's about the user. It's about the user experience rather than some sort of remote, removed fashion label that tells you what's cool. So we launched just over a year ago, last August, and it's been such a thrilling time to see the slow fashion movement really come together and come alive. But of course, it hasn't been all champagne and free Wall Street Journal ads. There have also been a lot of challenges, and so I thought I would leave with what are the things that I just wish people had told me getting started at this stage 1 year in. So I start with the first part for me is that there isn't a single face of entrepreneurship. I think that going into launching Zady, I had this idea that entrepreneurs, at least how they're portrayed in the media or in popular culture, they are a certain gender and they are a certain sort of style. And I don't fit those two things. I'm much more of an introvert, and I'm a woman. And to me, what I found in looking at not myself, but other founders, is that there's a very different sort of leader. And I think I use my listening skills that's come from being more of an introvert to my advantage. And so that's something that I always want to tell other entrepreneurs is that you really do have all different faces, and all different kinds of faces can be very effective in being an entrepreneur. The next lesson that I had to learn the hard way was to be 100% committed to the things that you really believe in. So for us, our 100% belief was that we were speaking to a changing consumer, and the consumer face was changing. And especially in the very early stages, before you have the initial signs of success, people are going to doubt you. And because we knew what we really cared about and what we really believed in, it was much easier to sort of filter out that kind of naysayers. But having said that, my third sort of takeaway is that while you should be 100% committed to the things that you really believe in, you should be 110% committed to changing everything else. And on that front, when we started Zady, we initially thought that we would be a dropship company. We thought we would develop relationship with brands, and we would just be a platform, and they would do all of the shipping. It turns out that when we went into the market for the caliber of brands that we were going after, they did not want to have anything to do with that. So we could have either said, okay, well, we're stopping here, or change entirely our direction so that we could just maintain this dropship. But instead, we knew what we cared about, and so we changed the rest. And so we, in the initial stages, carried inventory, and we used that to our advantage, because now we are known and developing a reputation for our amazing customer service. And as I mentioned, people love taking pictures of the packaging because they love being a part of this brand, and we wouldn't be able to do that if we didn't carry inventory. And then my final kind of takeaway is that opportunities don't come to you, you make them. And for me as a Midwesterner in particular, that was a really important lesson to learn, because as a Minnesotan, I was a very rules-abiding person that didn't want to get in anybody else's way. And when that became sort of real to me and having to push doors down, the first time was 1 month into our launch. Everything was going beautifully, and we knew that we wanted to have a pop-up shop. But when we called the real estate agents in New York, it turns out that it was incredibly expensive and way beyond our budget to have a pop-up shop in the key areas in Manhattan. So I was like, what are we going to do? We set out to have this pop-up shop. It's a very important piece of what we're building, to have this touch and feel experience. And I thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And then I remembered a very brief conversation I had in the elevator with my neighbor. And he said that he worked at the airport, the airports that are reviving and building new restaurants and spaces. And so it was kind of hard because he's my next door neighbor, but I chatted him up and I told him what we were doing. And it was very uncomfortable for me at the time, but I couldn't be happier that we did that, because that relationship was really the cornerstone for our entire holiday and will be continuing to be one of the most important relationships. And so getting over that little hurdle of knocking down that door and feeling very uncomfortable was actually such an enormously important hurdle to get over, because I've kind of lost all inhibition and will ask basically anything of anybody at this stage. But I couldn't have done it if I didn't go through that sort of one process. And so for anybody who feels a little bit hesitant, I always say, just go for it. And that's about it. That's all I've got. Thank you.